Hey everyone, my name is Annie, and today we're going to talk about water shaders. One of the recent projects I did was a Japanese garden with a pond. So today we're going to dive into how to create the color, the depth, and also a slight animation in the water. The links for the documentation is below in the video description, and in the documentation we have more explanations. So we're going to start off by selecting shapes, and there we're going to insert the landscape. And once you have a landscape inserted, make sure you select the landscape layer, and then you press L key, and there the landscape sculpting tool will appear. Press Ctrl and also the left click, and then maneuver around to dig a hole in the landscape. So once you think like you dig enough hole in the landscape, then we need to insert a plane. Simply just drag and drop the plane into the scene. And you can resize it so that it is big enough to cover the hole that you just dug. And once you made a plane big enough, you want to rotate the plane -90 degrees on the x-axis. One way you can do it is by using the rotational tool like I'm doing right now, and you'll realize that why does it look transparent? Something is wrong right there. So you check and the x-axis is not -90 degrees. So we are just going to manually enter -90 degrees in this case, and you will see that once you enter that, the gray side of the plane will appear. That is actually our water surface. And right here, we're going to adjust it a little bit more so it covers the hole. Right now, we are going to create a shader class called Water Shader. We're going to copy the codes, and we're going to go back into the scene and create a shader and name it Water Shader. And after you created the shader, you're going to go and open your code editor. So when you're in the code editor, you go to src, and then you go to shaders, and you find the watershader.ts file. And there you're going to copy and paste the code from the tutorial. And make sure you adjust the space to make it look neat. And we're actually going to delete the code over there. And one tip here is you will see the red squiggly lines on some of the codes. You can actually click on it, and you're going to click the blue light bulb and say update the import. And you can see on top, like when you do that, it automatically adds textures next to the color. So next we're going to upload the normal map texture. You can save the image in the documentation. And now normally it can be saved as a PNG, but in my case it turned out to be an AVIF file. So I'm actually going to have to convert that file into PNG, and then we're on to the section where we're going to create the material. Back at the engine, we're actually going to go to textures, and we're going to drag and drop the texture file into the engine. And then we're going to add a new material class where we're going to call it water. And here for type, we're going to select custom shader. And then for the shader, we're going to select water shader. And you'll notice there's two colors available. But before that, we're going to make it transparent. And we have two ways to enter the color, where you can choose a color using the color picker here, or you can enter the code for the color. And here you don't have to use the color code that we provided in the documentation. You can also pick your own colors. Definitely recommend you to experiment around. After you pick the colors, you want to pick the normal map where you select the image that you just imported and click on save. Next, we're going to talk about the depth of the color. And this is where we can copy and paste the code from documentation into our code editor. And here I'm just going to adjust the spaces, make sure it looks neat in the code editor. Also, don't forget when you see the red squiggly lines, you have to click on it and click the blue light bulb. Make sure that the import is updated, and always save your code after you make new changes. The next thing we're going to do is the color gradient, and here the code is already provided in documentation where we just copy and we're going to paste it into our code editor. Again, we're going to adjust the spaces to make sure it looks neat in the editor. And always check if there is something we need to update the import. And always save our code after we finish. So come back to the engine and you're like, what happened to all the color and the coding I just did? This is where you have to click on the plane and select the water material you just created. Then you have to click on the camera icon and disable the grid so you can see the lake surface. And next we're going to do the opacity of the water, where we are going to copy and paste the code into the code editor again. And remember, this time we're not going to get rid of the code that we had inserted before. We're actually going to just copy and paste it below. So we're just adjusting the spaces right now, and make sure that you always update your import. After all the imports are updated, make sure you click Save. And going back to the engine, you can see the water is slightly seeing through right now. Next, we're gonna add the lightning into our code. So you just copy and paste it over the return. And here I'm just updating the imports. Next, we're going to import waves, and here we're going to copy and paste the code into our code editor. Again, we're not going to override any codes right now. We're pasting it under the existing codes, and always make sure you update the imports. And then we're going to add the animation of the water, and this time we're going to add the copy and paste the code at the bottom. And there I am just updating the imports accordingly, and then I'm saving the file. Next, we're going to sample the normal map, and this is the codes already provided. You need to copy and paste them into the code editor, and also update the imports every time. Then last but not least, we're going to copy the code for the returns. And here again, I'm just updating the import. After you save the code in the code editor, go back to the engine, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn around until you see a slight reflection on the water where you can see the subtle waves animation. And there you go, you have just created the water shader. And you can also always decorate it, put rocks around it, or make it into a beach. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.